Welcome back to the High Performance Gym. I know. I have been missing for quite a while, probably for about 6 months. And I did promise that I was going to do episodes consistently, and that has fell by the wayside. And for that, I do want to apologize. I really do. But I do have a confession. And my confession is I'm a huge overthinker. Okay. I really do struggle with overthinking. And when I started this podcast, it was kind of, why am I doing this? And I didn't really know why I was doing it. And because I didn't really know why I was doing it, apart from that, I wanted just to deliver loads of cool information and interview loads of really great guests you know, to share the things that I was learning, there wasn't any real reason behind it. Um, I did have angles I wanted to go down and I was discussing, but then again, I overthought these things. And because I overthought them, I started procrastinating. I started getting overwhelmed with it. Then business was going in different directions and everything just became a little bit too much. So I basically stopped the podcast. I'm going to stop it for a couple of weeks. And it's actually been about, 6 months. Now, a lot of people listening to this also struggle with overthinking, procrastinating, and all that type of thing. So what I've actually done is, with this podcast, I want to explain how we're going to move forward with it. Because I've just interviewed a couple of cool guests, I want to bring them on. But I want to tell you exactly why the podcast exists. But because I'm an overthinker, and this is the thing what I've been doing with the podcast in the past, I have actually scripted it sometimes. Like, not scripted it as scripted in like word for word, but I've had like bullet points and power, like the things to follow. And when I do that, I find that I really do switch off a little bit. Not switch off, but I get confused with what I'm doing. I'm better when I go free flowing. Now, the back end of that is when I do go free flow, I can jump down rabbit holes and that type of thing. But I've come to accept that's just kind of who I am. And if anyone listening to the podcast is like, well, that's not for me, then that's cool. This podcast isn't for you. I do have a tendency to run down rabbit holes, and I'm going to embrace that sort of, let's call it, let's call it a uniqueness, because that's what it's all about, right? It's all about finding your uniqueness. And why I actually started the podcast in the first place, I called it Your Genius Podcast, was because that's what it was about. It was about finding your uniqueness and, finding your genius. I do believe we all have a genius inside of us. When I say genius, that's not like, levels of intelligence. It's just something inside of us that's unique to us, that we can leverage and use that to help other people, be creative, just find some joy in the world. Because I think that's what's sorely missing at the minute is people finding joy and happiness. And I think that's a huge part of life. We've got into this sort of hedonic treadmill where we're just always trying to achieve, and we're trying to get somewhere. But actually, like, that's not what life's about, because there is nowhere to go, only death. Yeah, so why are we racing towards death? It sounds absolutely insane when you actually think about it. So yeah, again, running down rabbit holes, told you so. So basically what I've done is I'm going to come back, I'm going to pull myself back now. I'm going to pull myself back out of this hole. And what I'm going to do, I've wrote down, because I overthink, I've wrote down 3 questions, right? That's what I've done. There's no script, there's no nothing. It's 3 questions I've wrote down. Hopefully I can answer these questions and you go, yes, that is for me, or no, that is not for me, and I can disappear and I can go and find some other cool podcasts or YouTube videos or whatever it is. But these questions get me to think. So I wrote them down and I'm going to answer them, and just let's see where it goes with it, right? So why does this podcast exist? I think I've kind of already started to explain that, but let's just give you some context to why it actually does exist. So I had a big change of career back in 2008. I was doing a job that I hated, ended up going on to do university, ended up being a personal trainer, owning my own gym. Basically what I did, I found some joy in life. I found my path in life. That is kind of what happened. And that's always been a big part of what I'm trying to achieve and to help people do, is that because a lot of people do work they hate, they're doing jobs that they hate, or they have no career direction. You'll know if we've listened back on previous podcasts with Aaron Kendall. Aaron's a young guy who's now doing his PhD in psychology, but we spoke a lot about like direction in life. And I think that is a big part of people's happiness. It's a big part of what gets us up, gets us fired up. And yeah, that's kind of the beginning of sort of my story. And I went into health and fitness, started becoming a personal trainer, working with a lot of young athletes, a lot of women, helping them to lose weight. And, I was loving the work that I was doing, opened a gym. Gym became very, very stressful, took us away from the thing I actually loved. I did get burnt out in the gym, and it was a very difficult time. And I lost my love and I lost my passion for health and fitness. That's kind of what happened. And I was becoming very cynical about everything. And it was just a very awful time. And then lockdown happened and closed the gym. I then became a full-time dad to my kids, and that was a really difficult struggle for me. I lost my identity. I didn't, I had this gym, I had this career, and all of a sudden I was a full-time dad to my kids, which by the way, I absolutely loved. You know what I mean? I built up such a good bond with my kids. My two boys, Arlo and Kobe, and I would never change that, but it was a very, very difficult and stressful time. And I did struggle. I struggled mentally. I struggled to make money. I struggled to find out where I was going to go in life, which direction I was going in. This is actually why the podcast started in the first place, originally back in 2021. And I did call it Your Genius Academy. It was a way for me to try and find direction in life and to find out where I belong, because I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And yeah, it was a very, very hard time. Um, and from there, I've started to build up Lift. So I've got Lift Performance Academy now. And basically, well, I'll come to that in just a second. But basically, what I'm trying to kind of say is here, so why does this exist? It exists for a lot of reasons, but it's down to sort of mainly to help people to just realize how bloody great they are, how powerful it can be. Health and fitness is a big part of. When I say health and fitness, that just sounds really commercially. But when you focus on your health and you focus on like getting yourself fit and active, and it just changes your brain state. And I am very much about brain state now. I do have a healthy obsession. It is a healthy obsession with neuroplasticity. Again, in lockdown, this is some of the things I started to study. I started to study a little bit of psychology, but mainly about neuroplasticity. I came across this concept of neuroplasticity, about how your brain can change at any age. And it was just fascinating. I found that absolutely, truly fascinating. It's one of the things that actually gave me hope when I was in my dark place, because it was like, this is kind of it for me, but actually, it's down to me to change this. And I knew from, it's good when people say, yeah, but it's up to you to change, and you can change, and you can do all that jazz. But when you understand the science behind it, it's actually, this is science. Your brain can do this. It's like, oh, wow, this is hopeful. Like, this is hope. So yeah, it's that's kind of why this podcast exists. I want to give people that hope, because we are challenged. We're all challenged with problems. We all have our own struggles. We all have our own, issues that we're kind of dealing with in life. But ultimately, it comes down to our health and well-being. And if we can get strong in our health and wellness, then we see the world differently. We can approach it differently. And I do have lots of ways that I can help people in that, but not just for me, but also bring other guests in as well, that they have expert advice and they can give all of this cool information that that maybe I just know on a surface level. They can go into depth with that. So yeah, that's kind of why it does exist. I don't know whether that was a bit abstract or if that was actually clear, but that's kind of where we're at with it. So who's it for? Well, this is who it's for, really. I mean, if we think about my situation, I'm a guy, I'm 43. I have 3 kids. I have a very stressful life. I'm building a business. I'm running a podcast. Like, I have a lot of these stresses in life. I'm also somebody who has come from being in a job I absolutely detested, and it made me depressed to the point I was just drinking all the time. And I wasn't taking drugs then, but I was drinking all the time. I was partying all the time, just to kind of as a way to escape. But since I actually found my direction in life, or certainly the path, let's call it a direction, because it does change as you kind of go along. I want to kind of help share that with people in all respects. Stuff I had to say is just for, it's for parents. It's for people, who have had a lot of challenges in life, who were maybe at that transition part of the life and they wanted to change their life, whether it's a health, whether it's a career, whatever that is. I would say it's mainly for them, mainly for parents, but also for young people as well, because I think there's a very strong connection between people our age who are in our 40s and young kids who are maybe in the 20s. It's a very confusing time, and this is what I'm, from lots of reading, talking to people, this is what I'm kind of discovering now. You got like kids who are maybe just coming out of college or university, or maybe they don't even know where they want to go in life. It's a very confusing and hard time. And then you've also got that transition in life where people are in the 40s, they do have those epiphanies and they have those, insights of like, is this what my life's about? And it can become almost a depressing time. I think, suicide, guys, is most prevalent in between the ages of, I think it's 44 and 55, which is that sort of transitional time of life or realization where your life isn't going where it's going, or maybe there's a big trauma in life, like a relationship breakdown or a career, you've just lost your job, or there's something, like that. And again, we bring it all back down to our health, because when we think about, we can just focus internally and we can just focus on ourselves and put ourselves first, everything becomes a lot easier. And this is the one thing that I want to try and for people to understand, that health is the foundation. Health is wealth. That is kind of it. But it's not just a case of, oh, let's go and lose some weight. That's like a minute part of it, right? There's so much more to it. And this is why I kind of really struggle with the podcast. Like, where do I kind of go with this? So there's lots of directions that we can go in. But hopefully that kind of clear that up to who this is for. But I'm also going to give it to a voice to young people as well, because let's say if we've got kids, maybe we don't understand what our kids are thinking. Maybe we don't understand what our kids are going through. We may understand what we went through as kids, but we don't understand what our kids are going through. And this brings us back to, I want to bring some young people on here so we can talk about the struggles that they're going through. So as mentors and parents, we can then help them. So for example, and now I kind of touch on to what I do as a business with Lyft. So at Lyft, we coach young athletes. I say young athletes, some of them play sports, some of them don't. The majority do play sports, but it's a place where we can get kids strong, physically strong. We get physically strong, we get mentally strong. That's kind of why it started. But we have sort of gravitated and turned our direction a lot to young female athletes. We have a lot of young girls in the gym who play football. And one of our athletes is actually in the gym now helping me as an assistant coach. Again, she didn't know what to do with her GCSEs, but she had her choices to make. She was in year 8, she was going to year 9 or year 9 to 10, I can't remember, where they make the choices. And she was quite overwhelmed. Like, do I take PE? Do I do business? Like, what do I do? So I had a chat with her and says, look, like, why don't you just come into the gym, do some work, we'll have a bit chat about it. And she's ended up taking PE. She absolutely loves it. She's in an element. I've also said, look, these are the kind of career options that you can go into. Like, if you are interested in sport, like, these are all the things that are available to you. Not kind of overwhelming, but just to give her that understanding that, you don't have to choose a direction at sort of 13-year-old, which is absolutely crazy. It's just about finding that interest that leads you down a certain path, which might potentially change down the line. But what I'm kind of trying to say here is a big part of what we do at Lyft is to help young people to be strong in life, like physically, yes, mentally, yes, but just to feel strong within themselves. And we'll bring people on the podcast to discuss all of those things. That's 2 questions answered. Question 3, what's in it for you? Okay, what's in it for you? I'm going to give you basically anything you need to get you through certain struggles that you could be dealing with now. Now, for me to do that, I need you to be able to interact. I need you to be able to send me a question or even a story that you may be struggling with. You don't have to give me a question that you're struggling with, but it could just be, you might just want to send me an email and say, look, this is my kind of life at the minute and blah, 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 and tell me what it's about, because that alone helps you, right? But then I could talk about those things on the podcast, or I could bring an expert in and talk about that, because I am starting to learn a lot of really cool things myself, and I feel almost selfish for not sharing these things. And the reason I'm not sharing it is because I don't know how to share it. Like, to me, just picking the camera up and talking about it on social media just doesn't work. For me, that's just, I can do it, but it has to be about a certain thing. And you know about all the algorithms and all that jazz, and it becomes really sort of like, ugh. But with podcasts, I find podcasts differently because you can actually have an open conversation. You can talk about things in depth. People who listen to podcasts like context and they like depth and they like to learn things on a deeper level. And if that's for you, then that's how I am. And if that's for you, then this is going to work for you. And I do like to dive deep into certain things that I'm learning. So, for example, like neuroplasticity, I love neuroplasticity. I could talk about all day. Am I an expert in it? Absolutely not. I would love to bring somebody in who is. Andrew Huberman, by the way, I would love to bring Andrew Huberman on the podcast and talk about neuroplasticity. I've got so many questions to ask him. But I know enough about it to have a conversation, to open conversations. ADHD, for example, that's something I'm really learning about now. And again, I find it absolutely fascinating. Am I an expert in that? No, I'm not. But what it does is when I'm talking about it, it opens conversations up and it gets you to think about it as well. Maybe you struggle with ADHD, or you have a kid who struggles with ADHD, or you work with people who struggle with ADHD. So what I'm kind of saying is there's so many topics that we can talk about, and I feel almost selfish for not sharing them. And that's kind of what I want that to do. I want that to be an open place where we can talk about things and accept the fact that we're not expert. I'm an expert in mindset or all of those types of neuroscience and anything like that, but there's no reason why we can't talk about it, right? You know, like mental health is a really big thing, and people don't talk about it because they think they're not qualified to talk about it. It's like, you have a brain, you have mental health, you are qualified to talk about those things. You don't have to be an expert in it, but you can open up conversations. And I think that's the biggest part of it. It's just like, let's just open up conversations. Let's talk about our stories. Let's tell people how we're feeling. Because even if you just tell someone how the struggles that you're going through, the challenges you're dealing with, it helps them to deal with their struggles as well. So, like, why should we not make it a place where it can be just natural and open? And yeah, that's probably kind of what's in it for you. And I am going to cut that there because, again, I could probably sit here all day and talk, and that's not fair to you. It's probably not fair on my kids either, because I will have to go and pick them up from school soon, and if I'm sat on the computer not talking to them, not picking them up, then that's not fair on them. Yeah, can't leave them just hanging around all day. Anyway, yes, that's kind of what it's about. That's what it's for, and I'm going to bring some guests on. I do have an amazing guest coming on who I've actually interviewed already. She's a stress expert, Bernadette Dancy. Bernie, we call her Bernie because we're kind of on first name terms now. But she's incredible. She's a PhD graduate. She's a super smart lady. She used to be a university lecturer. Now she has her own business called Stress Ed. We're going to be talking about that in the next episode. I'm going to bring that episode up to the next podcast episode. So yeah. And as for like other things that happens on podcasts, like advertisements or all that type of jazz, like, yes, those things are going to happen, and I will bring some things in there, but only things that are helpful to you. Okay, that is what I mean. My promises I want to do with this podcast is to have these things that are actually relatable to you. I listen to podcasts, and one of the things I hate about podcasts now is you have all of these advertisements on. I don't mind listening to someone if they really believe in a product. Like, I've been using this product for like 20 years. I really believe in this product. Sponsoring the podcast, brilliant. I'm all for that. I'm great for that. Or look, this is something that I'm doing myself because they generally want to do it, or they're generally trying it, or whatever it is. If there's genuinity behind it, that's great. I love that, and I think that's fair because, you know, running a podcast, it is free, and you do have to generate income somewhere because it's time, it's energy, and it also costs you money as well to actually run a podcast. So I do believe in ads. I think they work, and I think it's fair that if you are listening to something for free, you do have some ads in there, but also to respect you as a listener, there have to be something that's beneficial to you. Again, these ads, they just chuck loads of random ads. I stopped listening to podcasts. I used to listen to a lot of really great podcasts, and I've stopped listening to them just simply because of that. Because I think you don't respect me as a listener because you're just trying to make money as opposed to you're not trying to help me. And that might be a selfish thing. I might be thinking that completely wrong. I don't know. But that's just kind of my values. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Any links that I have, I will put them in the show notes. You can connect with me on Instagram and all that jazz. And I'll put my email on there. And a couple of free downloads. I've got a free download for Girls in Sport. It's to help you build some strong knees. It's 5 reasons your daughter's knees hurt. So that's something, and how to fix it fast. That's something that I've got at the moment. You can download that if you've got a daughter in sports, she's struggling with knee pain. Even if she's not struggling with knee pain, please download it, because strength training for girls is absolutely vital. And again, we'll get into this in a different podcast, but please, please, if you do have a daughter and she is playing sport, get her to do some strength work. Download the free guide and get her to do those exercises. Encourage her to do those exercises, please. So thank you for listening, and I will catch up with you on the next episode.